Yes, good evening. Season greetings to all of you. I am Dr. Venkatesh from Brilliant Study Center, Pala. I welcome all the respected students, parents, and Qatar faculties and Qatar coordinator for this session. This session is mainly for the how to made easy for the examination with respect to the subject. That is most important subject. That is physics. Physics is contributing in both engineering and medical examinations. Physics is the branch of science which deals with the energy and matter and their interaction. Here we are having senior most physics expert professors with me. I first introduce my left side, there is Kamal Nambiar sir. He is having vast experience in entrance fields, that is more than 15 years experience in entrance fields. I welcome Kamal Nambiar sir. Then next is Chungi Madam Miss. She is an engineering graduate from Bangalore Visvesvaraya Institute, that is prestigious institute. She is also having more than 10 years experience in entrance fields. I welcome Madam. Then Vineet sir. He is also an engineering graduate from CET Trivandrum. He is also having more than 10 years experience in physics or the entrance fields. I welcome all the three professors on behalf of Brilliant Studies Center Pala. Sir, have a good discussion for these students of Qatar. Thank you.
So today, actually, we have received a set of questions, mostly set of questions, I think, which are common questions that the students ask when they are preparing for JEE, preparing for NEET and other board exams and all. So we can actually reach a consensus that mostly students find physics a little bit difficult compared to their subjects, especially the students who are preparing for the medical entrance examinations. Okay, for if you are considering JEE, they have another subject to blame, that is mathematics. But mostly for in the case of physics, for medical entrance examinations, most of the students find physics as the most difficult one. And I think mostly maybe they find the application of mathematics a little bit intriguing in the case of physics. And most of the questions are also like that. How can we reduce the effect of mathematics while learning physics? But there is a saying in physics that mathematics is the language of physics, right? We learn physics using the language of mathematics. So when if you are considering the students who haven't taken mathematics as a subject for 11th and 12th grade, so it is going to be a little challenging for those students, because mostly physics is oriented a little bit on mathematics, because most of the derivations and all, most of the concepts, they can be understood better if they have a basic understanding of mathematics. That is why we actually learn the ideas of differentiation, integration and all.
So it's not that we cannot skip, we can't skip. Okay, that's the actual fact that we can't skip mathematics. The thing is, you can prepare the basic concepts of mathematics, which is 100% sure that you have to have the basics of mathematics so that you can solve the numericals in physics easily. Okay, so if we are thinking that we can skip mathematics and learn physics, I think that's near to impossible. So so please just concentrate on the basic concepts of mathematics. See, it's the application, application of mathematics is there in physics. It's not that you have to learn all the complex equations and all that. No, it's not the case. But we have to know the very basics of differentiation or integration or algebra, everything. You have to just know the basics so that you can, solve the numericals easily, right?
Yes. There is a greatest scientist in the world, in physics. There's Michael Faraday, who never went to school, never got any mathematical idea, but ended up becoming greatest scientist in physics. You can see that we are over here trying to crack the entrance exam, and they are all having the mathematics as one of the most important thing. We can't skip. In short, we can't skip mathematics in any way. I would say that you practice with certain basic things, like for example a simple trigonometry, integration, differentiation. These are the basic things which I would say that you start practicing and try to understand why we are using integration and differentiation at certain places. For example, work. When you're calculating work, there are two cases we can say: work done by constant force and work done by variable force. Now, if the work is done by a constant, if you know it's a constant force, then W is equal to F dot S dot product. And if it is a variable, then you will be using the integration to solve the problem. So if you start identifying, there is a pattern actually. If you look for it, there is a pattern. And when the integration comes, don't run away from it. Then try to understand that why is the integration used over there. Deal with the devil. That's the only way, you can be better, I would say. That's what I feel. I tell the students like that,
Yes.
the best way to actually handle.
Okay, what I have felt when the students ask about this mathematics, it is like they just look at these equations, which for the uninitiated, these equations will look like they are too much complex for us to learn. So just forget about the equations, forget about the complex equations and all. Just understand what it means by, just like Sir told, just try to understand what it means by in differentiation in practical, in real life, what it means by differentiation or what it means by integration in the most simplest way. It is nowadays you can find a number of contents online which try to explain this in the most simplest way. It is like you can even just type something like this in YouTube, like integration for toddler or something like that. You'll get the content. So they'll be trying to explain that in a very simple way, which you'll be able to understand, because we are going to use integration, we are going to use trigonometry, we are going to use differentiation in physics. But from year level, we are not going to use complex integration or complex differentiation. We are going to use the most simplest of these equations, like differentiation of a simple polynomial function x raised to n. If you know the derivative of x raised to n, that is going to get you across 90. Yes. Almost all the integration or differentiation questions in class 11th and 12th.
Yeah. And I used to tell to my students, actually, these equations, they are the mathematical representation of the concept which you are learning. So if you just analyze the equation, definitely you will understand that that's the explanation of the concept. So first of all, you learn the theory. Okay. Once you learn the theory and just see what the equation is, then you will understand what it is trying to explain. So I don't think it's a, it's a thing which you can't do. It's actually very easy. So many students have the misunderstanding, I should say, that, okay, if you learn this much of theory, that's it.
There's one question that students always ask me, like, sir, I learned the theory properly, and then I started solving the question. I'm not able to answer those questions. So I tell the student that, see, when you learn the theory, it's 50% of the job done.
Yes.
And then the next 50% is like, you take all these problems, and then when you work it out, then you will understand that, you understand the concept better. With every single question, you practice on it, you will fail many times. You go ahead, try to understand why did you fail, and you recognize the pattern. You will see the pattern over there. Maybe it's a silly mistake, but over a period of time, I think after you have done a lot of questions, I think you will get the grasp of the idea. That's how it is. It's been for me and everyone of us. It's like that. So.
It's that you don't see the solution first of all. First of all, see the question, understand the question properly, what is given in the question, what is asked, what's the concept behind that. Try to do it. Definitely you will be blocked, for sure. But then you will understand where you are getting blocked. Then go back, check the concept again, try to solve it. Then once you start practicing it, that will be in your hand. Okay.
When ma'am said, we try to understand that particular, by reading the question, we try to understand it, she meant the visualization. We try to picturize this. There is a picture running in our head. For example, one small thing, a student came and asked me a question on solenoid. It's like, there was a term L very, very large than smaller. It was given. So the student was not able to understand that it was infinitely long is what they meant. What infinitely long doesn't mean that it stretches up to Mars. It's like, in large, the length is very large when compared to the radius. That's it. So if you understand that, and I think the moment you see something like that, you will understand that L and R are simply given over. That they to try to tell you that it's very infinitely long, and then you use a formula according to that, B equal to mu naught Ni, and you will get the answer. That's how it is. That was the thing.
And there's some other question which is generally asked is, can we skip some chapters in physics? Can you skip D and D, and can you learn the remaining alphabets? Is it possible to learn the whole English? No, right? So it's the same case. You can't skip
Very
anything.
difficult job to do is cut.
That's a question that normally students who prepare for NEET ask this question. The students who prepare for JEE,
JEE,
or students who simply are focusing towards the board exam, they also ask this question. So what I try to explain or how I try to answer it is like this. You cannot simply skip an entire chapter, because physics is not like a connection of some 22 independent chapters. No, it's not like that. If you haven't learned laws of motion, you'll not be able to learn anything after that. If you haven't learned anyway the chapter before that, motion in a plane or vectors, then there is no point in continuing after that, because every chapter will have applications of these in this, and we cannot simply skip one. Now, one question is that all the chapters are dependent on each other, so that is one point. Another point is that in an exam like NEET, if you're considering NEET, there are 45 questions, and there are enough number of questions that we can get 2 or 3 questions from each chapters. So there will be, if you skip those, if you skip a chapter, you'll lose those 3 questions, and that is going to make a difference. Because and another thing, so what can we do regarding this? We cannot simply skip a chapter. But you can do one thing. If you find a chapter difficult, you can focus on the bare basics of that chapter. Okay, because we can apply the 80-20 rule here also. Because 80% of the questions, they are coming from the most easy concept of all the chapters. Okay, actually, if you are considering laws of motion, most of the questions will be based. If you're considering NEET and all, most of the questions will be based on the basic relation between force, acceleration, mass,
force and acceleration.
There will not be questions from. There will not be too many questions from constraint motion or something.
Absolutely,
like even for JEE. Okay. So the case of JEE is a little different. We cannot simply say the questions will be simple, but still, if you are comfortable with the basic ideas of each chapter, you'll be able to solve 80% of the questions. So instead of skipping a chapter entirely, you can focus on the most simple ideas, most basic ideas of the chapter, and you can try to solve the problems. You can solve maybe 80% of the questions from that, and then you can move on to the next chapter. So you haven't skipped the chapter, and the probability of you answering the questions from that chapter will increase drastically from that.
And even the past 4 years paper, if you analyze, you will see that the 20 question will be easy and the 5 question will be like difficult. That's it. Focus on the easier one.
Yes, for JEE, for JEE main, if there is 20 and 5, okay, till the last year there were like 30 questions and you could skip 5 questions, and there were plenty questions that you could answer, and if you are answering those 20 questions, then also your score is going to be really good.
Really good,
You don't have to go for all the difficult questions. If you are considering even JEE advanced as well, okay, the level generally increases, but still this pattern remains the same. There are a large number of questions which you can attend. Okay, there will be difficult questions, but if you keep those difficult questions aside as well, there will be a number of questions which you will be able to answer comfortably if you are preparing properly for that. And the things that we talked about mathematics, right? Like you have to focus on the most basic equations and all. They don't generally apply for JEE Advanced. Okay, that's an exception. For JEE Advanced, your mathematics has to be
very
not
strong.
We are not sugarcoating it. Mathematics have to be strong for JEE Advanced. For board exams and all, and focusing on board exams, number of questions were there regarding board exams. What you can do is you can just focus on the basics of each chapter. You can read the NCERT textbook. Okay, and
so basically we have to study, we should not skip mathematics. Okay, we should try from our side, only then we'll be able to ask. Like some of the students were asking, like, what's the importance of NCERT exercises and solved questions. So what do you say about that? What is the importance means? Yes,
I think they are a little scared about certain questions are there which are a little intimidating. It's like they are long passages type. They are actually, what they are trying to do is they are trying to explain. They want you to get to the main concept, properly. So they have a elaborate explanation and all. Maybe if you are finding it too difficult, you can skip that. Like some of the questions. But I won't say like solve every single question in the exercise. Like there are certain easy questions like numerical type questions are there. long one, if they ask you to plot a graph and all, I think a certain question you can, if you find it too difficult, move on from that. That's
Okay. What I have felt is like that the questions, the exercises in the NCERT textbook, many of the questions, they are actually not from the viewpoint of an examination. They're
Examination
actually
point of view, yeah.
meant for making you think. Because
Yeah.
there are,
Correct.
like Sir told, there are elaborate explanations for each question. But you go through the question, if you read it line by line, you're going to think. You may not get the answer right
Yeah,
away,
correct.
but you're
Correct.
going to think about that. You're going to think about what's happening over there, and that is going to build an interest in the subject. So many questions, they're actually focused on building an interest in the subject. There are a number of easy questions, you can practice it, and if there are questions which you find difficult, but before, just do not simply skip it. You can just go through the question, just try to answer it. You may not get the answer, but that's not the question. Okay.
I think they're trying to explain through this questions
Yes.
what's the application
Yes,
of that
yes.
concept which
Correct.
we have learned in that
Correct.
particular
Correct.
chapter.
Correct.
Like
Correct.
in certain numerical questions, even they are specifically mentioning. See, when we are comparing this particular value, like for example, magnetic field with like they
Correct.
are explaining what is actually happening in the actual
Correct.
scenario when you are practically
Correct.
applying
Practical
that
application.
concept of
Correct.
physics.
That's
So
right.
that's the reason why the explanations are
Yes.
bigger and questions are also
Correct.
bigger, because they want to tell you why
Correct.
you are learning physics.
Why are you learning physics?
Yeah.
Exactly.
Why you are
There's
learning
more
this
philosophy
particular
to that,
chapter?
yeah.
Yeah. So that's the thing. So don't skip. Try to understand. Yeah.
Okay, just try to build questions from that. Okay, you should always ask questions to yourselves, to others around you, to your teachers. Like I always tell my students, like the questions, it doesn't matter whether you get the answers or not.
Correct.
Okay, you have to ask the questions, and that is how you improve. That is how you learn science. You have to ask the questions, and you don't worry about whether you're getting the answer or not. Okay, sometimes you may get the answer. Sometimes the persons that you are asking may not know the answer. Sometimes you are asking us, and we may not know the answer. Sometimes nobody may know the answer to the questions that you are asking. But the questions are what matters, not the answers. So if you are just coming back to the exams and all, board exams and all, what you can do is you can just go through the concept. You can you'll get plenty of materials in the net, that you'll get plenty of previous year's questions papers. You'll get a number of model question papers. Just practicing those questions papers are going to be enough, right?
Yeah.
Right.
And I remember my friend, having an interaction with my friend, like in degree, like he was getting rank in everything. So chemistry, he was in the chemistry department. I was in physics. So I was having a chat with him. So I asked him, like, how do you prepare yourself? Because I can see that you score really well in the exam. Like, what is your strategies and all? He said that I completely focus on the past 4-5 years of question paper. We go through each question and I, prepare myself. I know exactly like what pattern they are following,
Yes.
how they ask the question, everything. So I prepare myself with that. And he always, and I've seen him every time a semester exam comes, he will be always with that bunch of paper. So I will also be preparing on the side. So he will go through it, and his strategy works. So you can see that he's actually fourth rank, like twice actually, he came. So his strategy works. So I would say that, collect the past 4-5 years paper and make sure that you're systematic. Now, it is very important that you know that answer properly, how systematically you had to write the paper, how, for example, point wise point, how you had to write the exam, and what carries the mark. For example, writing a story doesn't carry the mark. Let me tell you what it is. For example, a question is asked like conservation of momentum. You writing over there, let m1 be the mass of first particle, v1 be the velocity of the first particle. Like that, if you keep on writing and then you don't write the main matter over there, doesn't fetch you the mark. Let me tell you that. Okay, what carries the mark is that m1, u1. When you derive the whole thing, over there, that carries the mark. The other things are just add on. Yeah, that's a story. I tell the student that it's a story that you can write. You just keep writing. For example, m1 is the mass of first particle, v1 velocity of first particle. Like that, keep on writing. You don't have to write let m1 be the m1 moving with the velocity v1, collides with another particle of mass m2, moving with the velocity v2. You don't have to do any of these things. Like I hope you understood that. There are so many things that you can skip, and the main part you focus on. Only write that, but rest of the things you can add. Whatever you like in between. So.
Okay, so another question is like, what's the importance of NCERT reading in physics? but I.
NCERT is a book, which is like, more, the language is very refined and, they are more practical oriented, that kind of book.
Yeah.
And it needs the help of a teacher, to be frank. That's
Yes,
how they
sure.
have made the book. It requires the help of a teacher. Some of the things are there which needs a lot of explanation, which is not there because they have made the book very small. Yeah, like
Yes,
you
yes.
have a teacher, ask the teacher. That's what they are
Okay, it
thing
is not like it is not meant for leisurely leisure.
Yeah, correct.
It is
Correct.
it is a book which needs to be understood
Yes.
with the help of a teacher. There are a number of things. There are a number of points. There'll be like pointing towards something. Okay,
Yes,
and
yes.
you have to look. You have to take the help of a teacher to
Yeah.
understand it. So after you learn the chapter from a teacher, you can read the textbook. And there will be some things which you will be finding difficult. That will be there definitely. But the exams that we are talking about, NEET, your board exams, JEE main, these exams, they're not. We cannot simply say, okay, if there is a question that will be directly there in the NCERT.
Yes, yes.
But there will be some theory questions, statement questions, in which the points will be directly taken from the NCERT textbook. So we can say you have to read it thoroughly at least once. Okay, you have to read it before the exams and all. But do not simply mug up all the.
Yeah.
Do not simply mug up
What
line
it's
by
trying to
line.
convey is that we have to read
Yes.
it, but it's not that if you read the NCERT completely for physics, that's not sufficient.
No,
So we have to solve the questions, we have to practice, only then we'll be able to solve.
And I think accept the fact there is always one question that is going to beat you. Like beat me and everyone
Yeah,
over here.
everyone.
There are questions. For example, I think time period is equal to 2 pi root L by G. Seems like very simple. There is a question like there is a pendulum with a water inside it, and there is a small leakage at the bottom. So what happened? The water drips off. What happened? The length over there. This is what I understood at that time. So like length is something that is measured from the top till the center of mass of that object. And when the water level keeps going down, the center of mass will also go down. So this is something that we're like, okay, the distance. So L means that it's a distance measured from the hook, till the center of mass over there. Now this I learn over there. I write it down. Like what a question it is! Like amazing. I get the goosebumps. If you can feel it that way, I think that is going to be more organic way of learning something. And this is something I would say that I think when you start, you'll start falling in love with the subject. That's how. And I would suggest one physics of every day. Physics of every day. There are podcast and Audible. If you check out Audible books and all, you will see certain books are recommended, which will actually help you in. They actually make the subject much more interesting. They will explain about the physics of every day. And makes it very interesting. So if you can, get a material like that and go through it, I think it's
And
great.
then we'll get the feeling of why we are learning
the
physics.
physics.
Mostly the questions, especially I think NEET students are like,
Yeah.
why we are learning physics?
Yeah.
We don't want the physics subject, but that's not the case. Actually, physics is it's the science of anything and everything
Yeah.
which is happening around you. Okay.
The book
So-
name is Storm in a Teacup. It's such
Oh.
a nice name. It's Storm
Okay.
in a Teacup is the book.
Okay.
If you can access to that, I think it's wonderful the way she explains. Helen Cersei, that's the name of a scientist, ocean scientist, and she explains is wonderful. She makes you fall in love with physics. That's what I would say.
You keep the exams and all towards the side. So try to understand the physics behind your what's happening around you. Everything. It may be a raindrop falling downwards, or it may be a fan, or it may be something. It may be an object moving, or it may be an electrical device working. Try to understand. Try to explain the physics behind it. Okay, you may not be successful initially, but okay, from my part, that is how I learned to love physics. Okay, I try to explain what's happening around me. Maybe others may find it a little bit troubling because I always talk about what the physics behind the things. So, but that helps me love physics. That helps me
Then
build the
actually we
interest.
get the interest for
Yes,
learning the subject.
yes.
Otherwise, we'll be
Yeah,
like,
true.
it's just dry. Okay, mathematics is there. If you're thinking it in that approach, if you approach the subject in that way, you won't be liking the subject. But exactly, like if you're trying to understand what's the physics of the things which is happening around you, which is actually the science, which is actually physics. Physics is that science. Okay, so you'll start learning the subject and you'll start liking the subject. I mean, loving the subject. I
Yeah,
guess.
correct,
Yeah.
yeah.
എൻട്രൻസ് സംബന്ധമായ വാർത്തകളും അപ്ഡേഷനുകളും ഏറ്റവും വേഗം ആധികാരികമായി അറിയാൻ ബ്രില്യൻ സ്റ്റഡി സെന്റർ പാല യൂട്യൂബ് ചാനൽ സബ്സ്ക്രൈബ് ചെയ്യുക. ബെൽ ഐക്കൺ അമർത്തുക. ഈ വീഡിയോ മറ്റ് സുഹൃത്തുക്കളിലേക്കും ഷെയർ ചെയ്ത് നൽകുക.